Hey everyone. Welcome to another episode of Permission Granted podcast. I'm Kasia Rashfal and I'm here with the very beautiful Eva Pons.
Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to the podcast. We got into a conversation before we hit record, and I was like, Kasia, just hit record because the conversation we're having privately, I'm sure everyone on a public level is feeling. So go ahead and start what we were talking about, Kasia.
Oh my gosh, raw and real, right? We were just saying how and just straight off the bridge, I mean, lots of aha moments, lots of decisions made, based on those aha moments, and based on everything I know and everything I've studied, I know that it's enough to literally make the decision for whatever the next direction is, or whatever, whether it's a small change or a big change, it doesn't matter. But like, I make the decision and then I allow things to play out and I see, okay, based on that decision, how do I adjust my actions, my thoughts, my emotions, all of that, what comes up, I feel it. And so I made this big decision to go even more all in on my spiritual path in my business. And it's like I got sucked into a vortex of crap. That's the best way I can put it. It's like I'm sitting in this, like, what feels like density again. And it's not that I haven't been in density, this whole time, but it just felt like I made so much progress. And now I'm back in this, like, dealing with stuff that I felt like I've dealt with. And so it's not comfortable at all.
And the funny thing is, because I've been feeling the same way too, and it's totally different from being overwhelmed. I want everyone to understand that. Because overwhelm is it's more of the indecisiveness where you get overwhelmed. For us, what we were talking about that we have in common is this sense of being stuck into a vortex, because now there's so many more ample choices that we have. Now is navigating into which one is the best next fit.
Yes.
And sitting with that and really waiting and see which one gravitates to us the most. So I wanted to put that out there because it's not a state of overwhelm. It's just like, okay, it's almost like when you're going through a maze and you have 5 different ways that you can go, and they're all going to lead you to a great path, but you're trying to figure out, okay, which one should I take first? Like, that's what we're feeling right now.
Yeah. And basically it's like you've decided, and there's not necessarily dead ends, because I don't think there are dead ends in life, right? This isn't that type of maze. So you pick a path and you start going through the twists and turns, and you can handle it. I know I can handle it.
Definitely.
Right? You can handle it too. It's just how I this is sort of my picture of it, is you turn a corner and then there's like something in your way and you have to figure out, okay, do I feel this? Do I, do I clear this? What do I do with this emotion, this thought, this belief system? It's like you pick a path and all of a sudden all the obstacles or perceived obstacles show up, and we got to show up for them. And so I'm ready, but I'm surprised at how, what's the word? Unfamiliar it feels in my body, like in my body.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because it's almost like it's trying to, because we're creatures of habit, and it's sometimes as we're taking new pathways into journeys that we're going forward, it's almost like our old patterns want to bring us back to like where we were once when we were thinking things out. So it's almost like we're fighting that, like that's the gravity pull of going to familiar territory of our old patterns of thinking, navigating through new ways of trying to sort through all the other options that we have. And like you said, kind of weighing like all these emotions. And then I wanted to tap into, like, I wonder if some of these emotions that we're feeling are not even ours to feel.
Probably.
Based on circumstances and people that we're around, that we're absorbing other people's energy. Like we have to, it's like a lot of like murkiness that you have to walk through when you're going through new adventures, and even ones that are familiar, but with a different frame of mind.
Yeah. And that's the most surprising thing, is I'm not freaking out in the usual sense that I used to, I'm not, which is a huge success for me.
Yeah.
But it's just the unfamiliarity of this, and I find myself really being like called back to my basics. Yes. Meaning, here's how I feel an emotion in my body, right? The game doesn't necessarily change. It's just the subtlety of what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing, my thoughts, my beliefs. They're it's like polishing now. We're not excavating these huge, you know, chunks of stuff that I had to overcome, but the process is the same. And that I find comfort in.
That's awesome. So what are some practices that you are in your toolbox now that you gravitate to when you're feeling this pull in the vortex of trying to make the next best step? So in case any of our listeners are wondering,
Yeah.
okay, so if that sounds familiar, what are the best things that I can try and put into my toolbox when I'm feeling this state of vortex pull?
Honestly, Eva, the biggest thing, and this, I remember like the moment when I fully learned this, I was driving in a car with my girlfriend who's a counselor, and she really taught me how to feel in my body, not think my way out of an emotion, but feel it. And in the beginning, it was the hardest thing because you know, this is going back probably 7-8 years when I really had a lot of like negative emotions stuck in me. And it was stuck because I kept trying to analyze it rather than feel it. And so she's like, just feel it. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is, you know, and I kept going into the mental story and my mind kept nattering and nattering. She's like, no, feel the sensation of how does this sadness feel? Where in your body do you feel it? And so I finally got it, and it was like heavy and sticky and gross. And so I've been practicing that. And that is like my number one basic that I go to, whether it's joy, whether it's sadness or anger or this like whatever it is that I'm feeling. I don't even have to name it at this point, because I don't necessarily want to attach to whatever story is part of that. My mind will try, you know, that's what the mind does. But I zero in on it in my body. And so as I was waking up this morning and sort of semi-conscious, I could feel this like density, this almost like pressure sort of up my spine and in my lower right back. I just sat with it and it's still there. And so I'm just holding space for it. But yeah, that like feeling in your body is the number one thing, because from there, you can talk to that emotion. You can start to not identify with it, but really relate to it. Like, what does that part of you need? And oftentimes it's something like love or acknowledgement or soothing, or, you know, that's what I do. How about you? What do you fall back on?
I love that because I practice that too. Like I'm learning, and it's a muscle that I have to strengthen every single day because it's very unfamiliar to me. I've started doing this since I think you and I've known each other for the past few years, is really feeling into my feelings, but I find myself silence and stillness. Whether it's meditation or whether I'm just sitting there and I'm no actions, nothing to be like, no expectations, just sitting with it and really asking myself, like, what is this trying to teach me? What am I here to learn from this? And then, like you said, identifying it in my body. And then I'm telling you, the body is a wonderful mechanism in giving yourself those self-attunements. Yeah. Without anything external. If like you said, taking it back to basics and really just tuning in and feeling, okay, so if it's in my heart, what's making it feel heavy in my heart? And how can I at this moment, what can I do for myself to soothe myself so that I can feel that, sit with it for a minute, analyze it, study it, learn from it, and then let it go.
Yeah.
Where I think before, like you said, I would sit there and I would try and analyze it and I would try to like theorize it and then just like, and not really turning into inward. I was looking for all the external factors to try and help me through it instead of knowing like what I know now, that all the answers we have are within us if we really stop, drop, and really be quiet with those moments. And like you said, you know exactly where you felt it in your lower back. Yeah. For me, it's either in my chest, sometimes it's in my neck and like my upper back. A lot of times, like you, it's in my lower back, and really paying attention to how often does that happen, and if they're the same feelings and sensations and emotions that you're going through that your body is still trying to process, that you're kind of like you said, getting it in the process of getting rid of the junk.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we really stop looking for the external factors and really start turning into the internal processes that we have, those self-attunements that we have access to at any given moment, starting with stillness, and then like you said, tuning into where are you feeling it.
Yeah. And you know,
getting out of the head.
This doesn't mean don't ever reach out for help. Like, I want to mention this because it's so important, right? back in the day, before I, was better at this the way I am now, because I've been practicing this for over 10 years, right? I would reach out to friends, or, like, and we would commiserate, and we would be like, oh yeah, I've been there too. And right, we would like swap war stories, and that's not holding space. That's not really receiving help from someone. So my group of friends has really shifted and changed over the years, because when I reach out to a friend, like I often reach out to Eva, it's like, oh my
Yes.
God, what's happening, right? And it's not because I want her to commiserate with me. It's more
Or
like to
fix it.
witness,
Mhm.
right? To witness. It's like,
Mhm.
can you just hold space for me while I just spew this for a moment,
Mhm.
so that I can hear myself say it out loud and just like verbalize this stuff. You don't have to say anything other than I hear you, I see you, I love you, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Because then I know I'm not alone in that. And so if, for any of our listeners, if you reach out to a friend, really pay attention, because this is also a huge step, right? Whenever you're going through something, do you reach out to people because you want them to just see you and
Or
acknowledge you
validate
for what you're
you.
going through? Or do you want them to commiserate and swap war stories? Because then you get into the mind, then you get
Mhm.
out of the body into the mind.
Mhm.
And that's how emotion stays stuck, is when we perpetuate those stories.
And we're also, by doing that, like you said, by the external trying to witness it. When you're speaking to your friends, you don't want them to validate you. You don't want them to confirm what's going on. Like you said,
Yeah.
you just want them to say, yes, I hear you, I
Mhm.
support you, I love you. And then just when you're verbalizing it, you're also processing it. So you don't want anyone to fix it. You don't want anyone to do anything for you. You just want to hear yourself process it. You're putting it out there, you're verbalizing. And then if you really stop and listen, you'll know what to do next without anyone giving you external input.
Exactly.
Like you don't want someone to cheerlead you through the whole thing. You just want someone to listen.
Yeah.
Big step.
And believe that you can do it, right? You can get through this. And that's hard in the beginning, especially in the beginning, and sometimes even through the middle, and way into your journey, because sometimes the feelings and the emotions in the body feel overwhelming. But like, if there's one thing I can promise you, our listeners, is that you won't implode, you won't explode. Like, your body is completely safe. It's
Mhm.
just the molecules of emotion that are coursing through your veins and all your nervous system. They feel uncomfortable, especially if it's stuff that you've been feeling for years. And so even this, like, I don't know what this density is, what this like vortex of crap is, but I know I'm safe. I can sit here with it, even if it takes 2 weeks, even if it takes like 2 years or a month or a day, it doesn't matter to me. I know I
Absolutely.
can do it, and I know you can do it. Your body will be completely safe.
Same here. And it's a beautiful thing to witness what your body can do for you if
Yeah.
you just give it the time to nurture it and really
Mhm.
tune into it and love it as you're going through the process.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the times, a lot of the things that you're processing are uncomfortable.
Hmm.
They are just god awful.
Yeah.
But these are things that we have to witness. We have to bear witness in our journeys. It's
Yeah.
full of ups and downs. But if you stop and think about how many things behind you you have gone through, that
Hmm.
you have overcome and has brought you to this moment, you know,
Yeah.
going forward, whatever it is that you're going through, you have the stability, you have what you need and everything that it takes to get through it because you've done it before.
Exactly. Yeah. The only, thing I want to add in is, if you do have trauma of any kind and you don't feel safe doing this by yourself, then definitely seek professional help.
Absolutely.
Trauma, you don't want to re-traumatize yourself, right?
Mm-mm,
Trauma can be um, like, feel like a noose around your neck. It can feel
mm-mm,
so limiting, and that's where you want to seek professional help, and to do this process, or any type of process, if you don't feel safe doing it on your own.
mm-mm.
Yeah, just, you're never alone. And that's, I think, when I fully embraced that idea in my life, it changed everything. And so whether it's a professional or a friend or a coach, or whoever, you're never alone, ever.
Yeah, we'll put resources in the bottom of this video. I know Kasia does a lot of this work as well, so she can put her link in there too to help you through this process. And
Mhm.
absolutely, you are never alone. There's no shame in seeking out help. absolutely never ever feel shameful. If anything, support systems like that in a professional atmosphere with a coach and someone that can actually support you when you are going through trauma and processing trauma is the best thing that you can do for yourself. So don't ever feel like it's anything that's absolutely shameful or embarrassing to seek help. It's actually something that's very powerful.
Yeah, it brings you your strength back. It helps you remember your strength and helps you remember your resilience and the fact that, you know, you have access to possibilities in your life like that. I think that's why the basics to me are so important. I don't think we're ever beyond these basic emotional tools and self-mastery tools, because they help us just incrementally remember ourselves, right? There's no shame in ever doing the small things, the simple things, because we try to overcomplicate this stuff and it's just not.
I just think in the world that we live in, we're so bombarded with so many options, so many ways of doing things and new ways of doing things. And like you said, sometimes that just like brings on so much noise that when you really go back to basics, the simplicity of basics when it comes to really tuning into yourself, and we are so equipped to problem solve, like we can't even imagine if we were to just stop looking for all these external everything, you know, outside of what's within us. It's amazing to see how much we can process when we basically do the simple things of tuning in.
Exactly. Yeah. So hold space for yourself, right? Permission granted to reach out for help, and just be very intentional with how you would like space held for you. And you'll notice a huge difference. And it might take time, because if we have a big backlog of stuff to process, that's okay. It doesn't matter how long it takes. What matters is that you feel better, right? You feel more like yourself. And, you know, even through this conversation, I still feel that thing in my body, but I feel lighter.
Yeah.
So, right, even just sharing these few minutes of personal experience and some of the tools, this is as simple as it can be. So permission granted to just do it.
Yes, and permission granted to know that there is no time limit when you're working through these processes. Like there is no end date. A lot of this stuff is ongoing. A lot of things we're processing is just part of our journey that we're just going to have to continue to remind ourselves that there are processes in place that we are going to continue to do. And to know that there is no end, there's no expiration date when it comes to things like this. We are constantly always going to be challenged in various things that we do in our life. And once you have these resources and these tools and knowing what best works for you, because not everything works for everybody, please know that. There are a lot of simplistic things that work for people that don't work for others. Take the time to explore it, take the time to experiment, take the time to tune into yourself and see what works for you, and know that those are the tools that you can keep going forward, because there is no end game to this.
Yeah, exactly. So deep breath.
Deep breath, everybody. And let it out. Awesome. All right, guys, this was a great episode. Again, everything that we share, we are going through it with you guys and in real time. And this is one of the processes that we wanted to invoke with this podcast, is to really give you true to life things that we are going through and sharing them in conversation. And just as it's common for us, we know that somewhere out there it's in common for someone else. And just having this conversation and supporting you in this conversation is what this podcast is all about. So make sure you hit subscribe, like this video, share the link with someone that you think can kind of relate, or you know they're probably going through something similar. And I'm sure the collective, we are a lot of times going through a lot of this stuff together, right, Kasia?
Totally.
Yeah, and if you have anything you want to share, please, you know, in the comments below, let us know if there's any similarities to, if there are any aha moments that we shared with you that you can relate to. And we look forward to servicing you in the next podcast.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.